Hello, welcome to this update for most of North America. So let's see what's happening. We have some snow in parts of Canada there and the system on the Pacific, and some lingering snow showers in Alaska. And we still have tropical storm very disorganized parts of Belize and Honduras in some areas, and some more storms lingering around the Caribbean. So let's see here what will happen. Let's start with the severe weather. So today just a storm or two in the north there, nothing crazy. But day two for Sunday we have a slight risk, right? Parts of northern central Texas into western Texas, even branching to northern Mexico. So be aware there. So let's see, the tornado threat is 5 and 2%, so 5% parts of northern Texas and central Texas, and a 2% all the way down to from Oklahoma to southern Texas. So be careful in those areas tomorrow. Wind threat 15 and 5%, like Oklahoma, New Mexico, and parts of Texas, and hail just 5%. So be careful there, and a storm or two in the northwest. So let's see, strong to severe storms expected to develop across parts of west and central northwest Texas Sunday evening through daybreak on Monday. So this is mainly a night event until Monday. Shows posing risk of severe gusts and possibly a few tornadoes there in Texas. So be careful there for Monday morning and Sunday night. And then for Monday during the day, still a slight risk for day 3. Parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and a marginal risk all the way east to Mississippi and all the way north into Missouri. So be aware, 15.5% probabilistic. Thunderstorms associated with severe wind gusts will possible across North Texas and southern Oklahoma Monday morning. A marginal risk for severe wind gusts across a relatively large area during the afternoon and evening from parts of eastern southern plains to the Ozarks and lower Mississippi Valley. So be careful for Monday there, especially Monday morning across Texas and Oklahoma in those areas. So day 4 through 8, nothing there, and fire outlook is still elevated in the northeast because of those gusty winds there. So be aware from like New Jersey to New Hampshire, and day 2 still from northern New Jersey to Massachusetts, some areas. So be aware of the fire danger. And let's see here. In terms of the map, shows some snow today, day 1, all day from Arizona to Montana. Shows more snow in Idaho and parts of Montana. Shows that heavy snow possible in Washington there, northern Idaho, those areas. And there's that area like in Maine, some freezing rain possible in a very small area there into southern Quebec, and shows some mixed precipitation too, especially the freezing rain in Oregon in that red shades there. Some snow and hints of freezing rain possible in the mountains in Oregon, and a spot or two of heavier snow in northeastern Oregon, and that heavier snow like in Montana, North Dakota, and Saskatchewan. Some heavier snow there, so be aware. And New Mexico and Arizona, some mixed precipitation. Now for Sunday, it shows the severe storms and flash flooding potential, Oklahoma and Texas. It shows those areas of heavy snow, Washington and Oregon. Still some freezing rain possible in Idaho and Oregon. Some heavy snow there in Idaho, Montana, parts of northern central Idaho and Washington. So be aware, some mixed precipitation throughout the west there. Day 3 for Tuesday, no, for Monday actually, because day 2 is Sunday. So still shows some mixed precipitation all the way down to New Mexico throughout the plains. In parts of the northeast there and southeastern Canada, a little bit of mixed precipitation, and those storms in the south, some severe weather, and shows still a bunch of snow throughout the northwest in all that white, heavy snow, Washington and Oregon, northern California, a finger or two, and still some freezing rain or two possible northernmost North Dakota into Saskatchewan. So be aware, excessive rainfall just a marginal for Saturday and Sunday, today in the northeast, northeast, no, northwest, there in Washington and Oregon. And then for Sunday tomorrow, that's light risk, Texas and Oklahoma. This from Sunday to Monday, so this will mainly activate Sunday night when those storms will start forming. Sunday evening to Monday there in Texas and Oklahoma, so be aware. Still a marginal in Oregon, California for Sunday. Day 3, a marginal parts of Texas, all the way into Minnesota, and a marginal like in southeastern Texas and Louisiana. For day 4, another slight risk in Florida and parts of Georgia and Alabama, so be aware some heavy rain there because of as tropical storm that will join with that front in the Gulf and bring some more rain, and a marginal around it, and a marginal in the northwest as well. Day 5, another marginal from Washington to California. So be aware, snowfall probabilities today shows very high northern Washington, especially in British Columbia, and shows higher northern Idaho too. Some northeastern Montana, finger two in a mountain or two of northern Arizona, and southern Montana, a finger two in the mountains, and more to like Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Day 2, Sunday shows heavier snow possible in Idaho and western Montana, Washington and Oregon, so be careful there. For Monday, still a lot in Oregon there, in Washington, Wyoming and those areas. Day 4, some possible in the northern plains and more in the northwest. Day 5, northwest. Day 6, does show some in the Appalachians and some across the east possible. Day 7, still a snow or two across the east and northeast, and mainly across the west there. So be careful. There are the high snowfall probabilities here, so somewhat of snow like Utah, northern Arizona, even a mountain in the Baja, and shows more in Oregon, very heavy in Washington, British Columbia, very heavy there, northern Idaho, especially like shows North Dakota, some probabilities into Manitoba and Saskatchewan, some heavier snow, so be aware. For Sunday, still kind of there, especially across the west. Very heavy northern Washington, Idaho, and British Columbia, very heavy there. Into Monday, still in the northwest, especially like in Idaho and western Montana, so very heavy there. And in Washington and Oregon, all the way into Alberta and British Columbia, shows some heavier snow. Northern Mexico shows some too, parts of New Mexico there. And Tuesday, still some very heavy probabilities in Idaho, especially Wyoming, Montana, and Oregon. Northern California might get some, and until next Tuesday, still across the west in Wyoming, Montana, especially there in Washington and Oregon, and some in Alberta and southern British Columbia. Shows more there Tuesday, especially like some in the plains area and prairies, and more in Wyoming and Oregon there. So be aware, the freezing rain probabilities today until Sunday shows more there across the west in Oregon, shows some in Washington, some 24-hour probability of accumulating freezing rain. Does show some like Manitoba and Saskatchewan a little bit, and shows more in eastern Quebec, northern Maine a tiny bit still. So be aware. For Sunday, still shows across the west some slight probability, especially in Washington, some freezing rain in the mix of that snow in the mountains. Shows a finger or two in Ontario or Quebec. It shows like Monday, still a finger or two there, especially in the mountains. Even a small probability in the mountains of Mexico. And yeah, next Tuesday showing a finger or two in the mountains, but especially like southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba, North Dakota shows some probabilities of freezing rain. Later into Tuesday the 19th, more Manitoba there in some areas. So be aware. And there's this, and there's the 72 hours freezing rain accumulation or ice accretion there. So does show in Oregon some spots there, shows Montana finger two, but mainly there in Quebec and Labrador shows some more freezing rain from the European model. There's the GFS model too, shows here like precipitation, freezing rain, So this next 3 days showing in Washington and Oregon that freezing rain there, a tiny bit of accumulation, and into Quebec and those areas. So be aware there. And here there's like the 48-hour snowfall shows a lot in Washington and Oregon. Some mountain peaks in Washington, you see those whites close to like 50 inches or something. That white's all the way to 60 inches of snow. So be careful there. North Dakota, Montana shows some in like in Idaho and Oregon, Northern California, Nevada, and some areas there. So be aware of the snow. There's the 24-hour ice barely shows anything, but the other forecast that I showed you did have some ice there. So yeah, be aware in those areas. There in Canada, we have some snowfall warnings, parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Snowfall warnings there in all of those locations. So a low pressure system moved from Montana, resulting heavy snow parts of southeastern Saskatchewan and southwestern Manitoba. So show like 8 to 12 centimeters falling by Sunday morning, locally higher amounts possible over higher terrain. So be aware. Saskatchewan there, Manitoba shows more snowfall warnings, heavy snow in British Columbia, those mountains of British Columbia and Alberta, mainly British Columbia and the western portions there, shows the snowfall warnings in a highway there of southern British Columbia. Frontal system pushed into this region by this evening, and heavy snow in that highway. So be aware they have some special weather statements there. Elevated sea surface height, combination of seasonally high tide, storm surge, and strong winds. Waves are expected near the coast because of the big system there on the west. So we'll show the models on that in a second. Be aware there, and shows the storm surge warning in Quebec still some higher than normal water levels there. And down in the US, we have some winter storm warnings in Washington and Oregon, Northern California, and those red flag warnings across the Northeast there. We have some wind weather advisories in North Dakota and Montana, and some like wind weather advisories Northern Idaho, Central Idaho, and Montana. Especially like some winter storm warnings in Idaho, Western Montana there, and some red flag warnings in Hawaii. High surf advisories there. Must be very windy there, like the small craft warnings too, and show some coastal flood warnings as well. High wind watches western Texas, wind advisories in New Mexico, and some wind threat advisories near New Mexico in the mountains. Some frost advisories all the way to Southern California. See, even some small freeze watches in those light blues there, as you can see, freeze watch, frost advisory. They have some freeze warnings too in those dark blues there in California. So be aware. Winter storm watch in western Alaska, and yeah, and there's even a snow squall warning in a part of southern Wyoming. There's high wind warning, snow squall warning. So you can check in more detail here the alerts. Both of these links are in the description there. So yeah, let's see here the snowfall for the hot areas. So until Monday shows that snow like in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, some 8 centimeters or even more. Some light showers in Quebec of snow, and especially in Labrador and Ontario. Some snow there shows a lot of snow on the west. British Columbia more than 50 centimeters, 26 centimeters, a lot of snow there. In Alberta shows more, like Northwestern Territories, some light amounts there, but maybe some snow too. Southern Alaska, and those areas show that snow in New Mexico by the European model, some parts of Arizona, Colorado, northern Mexico in the Sierra Mountains, and a thing or two like the Baja there in Southern California. So be aware those areas. There's the GFS, shows that snow on the west there, heavier in some areas along the west coast. So be aware. Those eastern mountains of British Columbia too shows close to like 14-15 centimeters in Manitoba, all the way to like 17 or something. So yeah, be aware. This is until next Monday. Now if I put this until next Thursday, alright, it shows more snow there. And this specific modern showing snow like in Ohio and Indiana, this is very very crazy. Shows like some, here's some 11 inches of snow the next 5 days, 12 inches near Indiana, some snow West Virginia, 2 inches Pennsylvania. So yeah, be aware. The GFS shows some snow there too, but further east into eastern Ohio, Pennsylvania. Shows some in Tennessee, especially in the Appalachians, southern Ontario shows some snow too. So yeah, there's the icon. The icon has further south into Indiana and Illinois, even Missouri. The icon has some snow. So be aware in Kentucky, West Virginia, the Appalachians there shows that snow in New Mexico and those areas. Utah shows specifically heavy. Northern California the next 5 days, some 43 inches. The mountains of Washington there, especially in like northern Washington, 49 centimeters, 50 centimeters of snow, no inches of snow. So be aware, some 47 to 50 inches, and especially like in Oregon, some 22 inches there. So be aware. Shows New Mexico some those areas. So these models are kind of lost in terms of where the snow will be on the east, but we'll keep monitoring. Shows more snow down to North Dakota, South Dakota, some 11 inches in some areas. Further next week, it shows more snow like down to Manitoba and Saskatchewan, some 37 centimeters, 26, like a field of snow coming down there. Shows some across Quebec and Labrador, a little bit of snow. Shows a lot in the mountains of British Columbia, like 95% of British Columbia will get at least a flake of snow in the next week. So be aware. Shows more across Saskatchewan in those areas, because as you can see here, there's still that snow and some spots of freezing rain in the east there, and that system on the west. Some heavier snow in parts of British Columbia, Washington and Oregon, those areas. The heavy rain shows Northern California and Oregon, some heavy rain Sunday there. Shows some snow showers in Ontario and Quebec, and as you can see, the Europeans, those big storms in Texas and Oklahoma with that severe weather Monday morning and Sunday night. So be careful, those severe storms. You can see the low pressure keeps going there, a lot of snow in the mountains of the west, and then the low pressure goes, the front joins with Saya in the Gulf and brings more heavy rainstorms all the way from Louisiana to Florida, and ends by late next Thursday, and shows that other low pressure developing there, Indiana, next Wednesday the 20th, and some snow in the Dakotas, but the European has that snow starting in Ohio, Indiana, some more storms in Michigan, and some snow like and rain parts of the northeast. That system tracks the coast there. Shows next Friday the 22nd, some snow in the Appalachians, and the system keeps going north there. And it has more stuff around the northeast and Atlantic Canada by late next weekend. So yeah, be aware in those areas. There's the GFS. It has that system with snow there now, like in Montana, North Dakota, Saskatchewan and Manitoba. That snow has the system on the west, the heavier snow like in British Columbia and Washington and Idaho shows more snow Sunday, March to like Oregon, Northern California later in those areas. It shows that system with the big severe weather there. Some snow in northern Mexico and in New Mexico. This goes there. Show like that keeps going. The system shows the low pressure getting all the way into the Great Lakes, and some snow in Minnesota, southwestern Ontario by next Tuesday the 19th, and this goes there, shows the front and side joining there near Florida with the heavy rains in the southeast, and shows like the GFS another system on the west coast, especially in Washington and Oregon next Wednesday the 20th, more snow there, parts of British Columbia too, in Northern California. Then the GFS had that low pressure developing near the northeast with like next Thursday the 21st, some snow in Ohio, West Virginia, and those areas, and has more snow behind it all the way into Missouri, and the system goes there to the northeast next Friday the 22nd. It shows more snow in some parts of the northeast, some heavy rain there. So we'll monitor the potential for those systems there, but let's see what they have for the rainfall here. So they do have that very heavy precipitation in the northwest because of those systems, especially some spots of Washington and Oregon close to 15 inches, 15 to 20 inches in some spots there, because all those fronts shows all the way to 4 inches and a half in Oklahoma and Texas. Shows that moisture surge in the south there, in from Louisiana to Florida because of the front and the remnants of Saya. Shows more there across the Great Lakes, some more rain, and yes, so be aware in those areas. And they have the hazard still, the heavy precipitation in the northwest, the severe weather, day 3, and shows the high winds, the plains, and the green areas for heavy rain across the south, the plains, and those areas. So be aware, day 8 through 14, they do have some high winds across the northeast, some heavy snow in the Appalachians near the Great Lakes. So yeah, be aware, and some like some below average temperatures in the southeast, the heavy snow across the west, day 8 through 14, and some heavy precipitation on the west coast too. So be careful in those areas. Now the winter storm severity index for like Washington and Oregon, they do have some areas of extreme there in Washington, those higher peaks where they might get close to 50 inches of snow, shows more there, like some major winter storm impacts, parts of the mountains, Washington and Oregon, finger to Northern California, because Northern Idaho and Montana more there. So be aware in those areas, and let's see. So here's still those cold temperatures even during the day across the northwest there. Some A is in 70s in parts of the south. Tonight into Sunday morning shows those very cold temperatures across the west. Some 8 Fahrenheit in Nevada, 25, 22, 18 Fahrenheit. So be aware they're not going to the plains, like some 30s, 20s in Nebraska, the Dakotas. Some 30s in like the northeast, not going through the Appalachians. So be aware, the mountains of California, some colder temperatures too. Sunday during the day shows still cold in the mountain peaks of Wyoming and Montana and Idaho, but shows like some A is in southern Texas and Florida, some 70s, so a little bit warmer there still, and kind of coldish in the north. And Monday morning shows, let's see, some 20s across the north, 36 to 28 in the Dakotas, some like in the Midwest, choose some 30s in the northern Midwest, some 30s in New England there. And Monday morning shows some 20s and teens in the Rockies there in Colorado. So be aware. And some 20s and lower teens across much of the West there for like Monday. Shows some 40s, 30s across the north during the day on Monday. Some A is in the south still, and still cold into those mountains of the northwest, so be aware. Now Tuesday morning shows already much colder across Wyoming and Idaho and Montana, some 10 Fahrenheit, 5 Fahrenheit in Nevada, some northern Idaho and some northern Utah, and some areas of Wyoming might be close to 1 Fahrenheit or something. In the highest of highest mountain peaks might be close to 5 to even -1 Fahrenheit in those darker purples there. So be aware. And then shows around Tuesday still very cold during the day in those mountains, some teens and single digits in the highest peaks of Wyoming, northern Utah, colder throughout there, but still some A is in Florida and southern Texas, some 70s there. And yeah, and the next Wednesday morning, the 20th, let's see a little bit closer here, because they're already showing some -1 Fahrenheit, 2 Fahrenheit 14, 8, so very, very cold in those mountains there. 2, 3 Fahrenheit, -1, so very cold in those areas. Beware some 5, 14, 30 Fahrenheit, and this is Wednesday morning. Wednesday during the day, still some 30 to 24, 36 Fahrenheit, still cold in those areas. Some 60s in California, some 40s and 20s in the higher peaks there, and be aware. But the Thursday morning doesn't show as cold as Wednesday morning, but still shows like 10 Fahrenheit, 12 Fahrenheit in those areas there of the Northwest. So be aware, and like let's go back a day here. So this is Wednesday. I only showed the Northwest, but in other parts like the Rockies in Colorado shows close to like 1, 2 Fahrenheit as well. And all the way down to western Texas, some 30s, 20s in northern Texas. The Northeast, some 30s Fahrenheit as well. So be aware of those colder temperatures, some 20s the northern plains as well. And Wednesday during the day, the max temperatures already show some 30s during the day still, like the Dakotas and Minnesota and those areas, and shows some like 80s in southern Florida. But like the next night shows those much colder temperatures, 14 Fahrenheit, 17, 24, 29 Fahrenheit, much of the northern plains and those areas. So be aware, those colder temperatures show some 30s in Ohio, Indiana, and the Appalachians, and still some things on the Rockies there. So be aware. Day 6, next Thursday, the 21st, during the day, still some 30s there in the north, some 30s, 40s, the Appalachians, and still some 70s in southern Florida, southern Arizona. So yeah, in day 6 minimum, the next Friday, the 22nd, in the morning, shows some 14, 13 Fahrenheit in North Dakota still, and 30s Fahrenheit all the way down to northern Texas, and shows some 20s, 30s throughout the Rockies there, especially some things the higher elevations, so be aware there. And the day 7, next Friday during the day, still some 30s and 20s in the extreme north during the day, some 40s in other areas, and yeah, so yeah, be aware in those areas. And shows some these days during the night, some 40s all the way down to northern Florida and stuff. So yeah, so the 24-hour max wind gusts still show some very high winds in Montana. This is only until Sunday at 12 p.m. tomorrow. Shows close to 75 mile per hour gusts in those mountains of northern Montana. Some like 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts there. Some higher gusts southwest and southeastern Wyoming, close to 60 mile per hour gusts. So be careful those areas there. And let's see here. In terms of the severe weather stuff, there's like the European model shows Sunday into Monday, doesn't show much Cape, barely shows any Cape there, but does show a tiny hint of Cape in Texas, but barely anything. The thing we are watching there is like the wind shear shows a strong low level shear in parts of Texas and Oklahoma Monday morning. Watching this for potential tornado threat or something. So it's low Cape setup and high shear. So we'll maybe watch this for tornado threat, but be aware of the storms there. So the rain accumulation from some other models. There's the GFS. It does have more in the south from like that front and Sarah as like some 7 inches the next 5 days, some 3 to 4 inches in the plains, and it has like some very crazy amounts, close to 9 inches in Oregon, 10 inches Washington. So be aware there. Shows here like a lot in parts of British Columbia, some 80 millimeters, but shows the worst down there in Oregon. Shows some rain there in Newfoundland, some 48 millimeters in Labrador and some areas, but nothing that crazy, because much of this might be snow already because of the colder temperatures. There will be just some showers near Ontario and like Atlantic Canada, But yeah, and it has much less, way less than the GFS. It only has like some 5-6 inches there. In Oregon, the GFS had like 9. So yeah, but this is until Monday. If I put this until next Thursday, it has more than like 3 inches in the Gulf or something. And if I put this until the 21st, the European model has like all the way to 12 inches, Northern California 13 inches. So be careful next week. Shows until next Wednesday some 7 inches, until next Thursday some 12 inches. So we'll watch this for more systems there. So be aware those areas in Hawaii shows some passing showers, but nothing crazy. The wind gust shows those gusty winds near Hawaii there. Shows especially Sunday, tomorrow, tonight into Sunday, some 43, 50 mile per hour gusts, some areas there. This goes still a little bit gusty and calms down by like next Wednesday. So be aware today those high winds northern Montana there, southern Alberta shows some very high winds close to 65 mile per gust, and this will be almost 100 kilometer per gust parts of southern Alberta. So be aware there in Montana. This goes shows maybe a gust wind through the Great Lakes and some parts of the west there, but shows this system kicking up there in Texas, close to 62 mile per gusts, some very high gusts even outside those storms, because that robust low pressure system shows high gusts in Oklahoma, the mid south, the Rockies. So be aware in those areas. It lifts north there, shows some higher gusts with this big system next Wednesday the 20th, Northern California, in Oregon, northeastern Oregon, some mountains of Washington, especially in British Columbia, close to 90 kilometer per gusts or even more. And then the low pressure kind of turns south a little bit and goes with some high winds near Washington and Oregon again. And the European has this going to Washington next Saturday the 23rd with some higher winds there. So yeah, be aware. It has the system working around the Great Lakes and Ohio. It has some very high winds next Thursday in Ohio, the 21st. It has some strong winds the southern Great Lakes, close like 78 mile per hour gusts in like Lake Erie and some areas of northern Ohio there, even close to like 90 to 100 kilometer per gust southern Ontario and some areas there. So be aware, next Thursday the system still spinning with strong winds near like those areas there, then it kind of goes away. So be aware those areas. Let's see if there's anything that important here. So there's like this, the GFS shows that low pressure in Mexico, that they'll bring the severe weather, and does show this like big low pressure on the eastern US on like the 21st there, with that snow. It really deepens down that low pressure and then goes away there. And now let's see here, there's the European, shows some like much below average temperatures across the west. The keeps there still shows some above average on the east, but then it brings down that big mass of cold air from Canada all the way down to like the southeast by like the 21st or something. So we'll watch that too, but be aware that those areas and like here does show still some very cold temperatures across Canada there, some -3, -24, -2, a little bit less in southern Ontario and Quebec, but very cold across the west there. So this shows all the way to Yukon, all the way to -30 degrees Celsius. Let's continue this. It does like expand that mass of cold air like northwestern territories and Yukon all the way to -33, brings it all the way down to southern Saskatchewan, -6 and negative temperatures next Wednesday over most of Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, northern British Columbia very cold, shows in Nunavut those cold temperatures, a little bit less in Ontario and like Quebec and Labrador, but very cold across the west. That mass of cold air gradually comes down there, goes all the way into Ontario, Manitoba, some colder temperatures. So be aware, and does show like this very cold temperature, like minus 27, all the way down to Alberta next Sunday, the 24th. Like not next Monday, but the other Monday, show like some minus 3 southern Ontario, and very cold across the west there. So be aware in those areas, and also in Alaska, eastern Alaska, some very cold temperatures there. So like my minus 34 Fahrenheit, my minus 24, minus 14 Fahrenheit. So very cold there, and even southeastern Alaska, some areas might catch some breaks like in the Aleutian Islands, but very cold there. So be aware in those areas there. And we still have tropical storm Saya in the Caribbean there, so still says like close to 200 millimeters possible in Honduras and Guatemala there. So like some further next week, heavy rainfall of tropical storm Saya could potentially cause catastrophic flash flooding, mudslides northern Honduras and other areas across Belize and El Salvador and Quintana Roo. Heavy rainfall cause significant life-threatening flash flooding too. So tropical storm conditions are still expected across portions of northern coast of Honduras, Bay Islands, and Caribbean coast of Guatemala, and the coastal Belize and portions of the coastal Mexico, and tropical storm warnings are in effect. So be careful. There are the tropical storm force winds probabilities. A lot there in the Bay Islands, some parts of Belize, so be careful with the gusty winds there. And they still have this kind of dissipating over the Yucatan, but still a tropical depression in those areas there, so be careful still. The European model still has like some very heavy rain in northern Honduras, northwestern Honduras especially, close to like, let's see, 165 to 167 millimeters. So still some flash flooding there. Shows a lot in like Guatemala and El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, those areas. So be careful the heavy rain there. Around the Yucatan, those areas shows more in like southern Mexico, close to 150 millimeters. Some areas there. Eastern Mexico shows more the next 5 days, close to 80 millimeters in some areas. So yeah, be careful. If I put this until the 24th, increases a little bit more across like Guatemala, Honduras, and some areas. So because it has like some parts of northern Honduras, 8 millimeters until the 21st, and until the 24th, 108 millimeters. So we'll watch there for more moisture later. And yeah, the next 7 days doesn't show anything else there, but on the Eastern Pacific there's an area of 10% there. Might try to do something on the Eastern Pacific, but still some low chances there. The next 5 days shows some more rain across the Eastern Caribbean, close to 58 millimeters in Barbados. Be aware in Barbados, some more passing showers and storms. Tobago and Trinidad, some more across the Eastern Caribbean, some passing showers and storms. So be aware, especially during thunderstorms. Shows a shower or two in Hispaniola, thunderstorm or two in Puerto Rico. And shows more there across like the Bahamas and Florida, and Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and a shower or two in Jamaica, and some storms there. Shows still some heavy rain in parts of Costa Rica and Panama, some tropical downpours. So be aware of those areas, and this mainly it. So stay safe. There's the GFS, shows in Belize there, close to like 186 millimeters. So be careful with flooding in Belize and the tropical storm conditions. The icon like 148 millimeters. Be careful central Guatemala into southern Mexico. Some flash flooding possible too. And like the wind gust does show the storm there still spinning. It goes into Belize. Some higher gusts there. So be aware in those areas. The intensity guidance still shows there's some like tropical storm strength now, might weaken a lot in the Yucatan, but some others still shows maybe going back to tropical storm strength or something, but nothing that crazy. The spaghetti shows like it goes into Belize, the Yucatan, all the models curve this into the Gulf. as it gets caught into that front, but it probably won't be tropical anymore as it passes near Florida and some areas. So the GFS has there, gets caught into that front in the Gulf, and and brings some storms to Florida next Wednesday, but barely nothing there. Just some heavier storms. There's the European, the moisture goes into the Gulf and goes into that front, and some storms next Wednesday in Florida. So yeah, be aware. Let's just see some hurricane models for curiosity. There's like the H-trough goes into Belize with some storms and wind there, goes into the Gulf, has like very weak, only tropical depression or something, but barely tropical because of structure, and it gets caught into that front in like Mississippi and Louisiana and goes into Florida there. There'll be higher shear as well in those areas later. So be aware those areas, those storms and everything, and stay safe.